Hello, welcome to today's class. We're going to look at some basic concepts in human resource management. So the objectives of this lecture will be to examine the explanation or definition of human resource management, look at some functions and the plan of human resource management in an organization. We'll be addressing the concepts of recruitment and selection, orientation and training, compensation, labor unions and collective bargaining. We will look at the contemporary staffing challenges facing organizations, and then the challenges and advantages of having a diverse workforce in an organization. All right. Workforce diversity is becoming an important topic across the globe, and we'll be looking at that. So let's begin. But given the content of this particular class, we are likely to have it in two parts once again. We may be looking up to, say, recruitment and selection. The issues are many. Then afterwards, in part two, we'll look at the other aspects of this particular topic. Okay. So look at the definition of human resource management. That human resource management, or HRM, is the management function devoted to acquiring, training, appraising, and compensating employees. Okay, so there are several management functions in an organization, but the aspects or the function that is devoted to making sure that the organization acquires the right employees, train employees, appraise employees, and also compensate employees well, in order for them to give of their best to the organization, is handled by the Human Resource Management Division. Okay, so it's a management function, but largely devoted to issues related to employees, how to get the right type of employees, how to train them, how to appraise them, and how to compensate them well. Okay. To be able to perform these functions, human resource managers normally undertake what is known as human resource planning. So human resource planning is the process by which management seeks to avoid shortages, excesses, or redundant workforce in an organization. So if you are a manager in your organization, you want to avoid a situation where you may not have enough human resource to be working with in the organization. All right. Then you also want to avoid a situation where you have so many employees or redundant employees in the organization. In both scenarios, the disadvantages are enormous for an organization. If you have lesser people, what it means is that you may not be able to meet the demands and the request of your clients and customers, and that could mean a decline in profitability. If you have more than you need, what it means is that you'll be paying some people that are not contributing or contributing less to the growth and development of your organization. So as a human resource manager, you have to undertake what is known as human resource planning to avoid a situation where you might not have workers at all in your organization, or you want to avoid having too many than required or needed in your organization. Okay, that whole process of trying to avoid excess and shortages of human resource in your organization is what is known as human resource planning. Yes, so we have to understand these fundamentals of human resource management, that it entails, it addresses the fact that all managers are HR managers. So that is the first fundamental issue that we have to know. No matter the position that you hold, whether you are a sales manager, operations manager, marketing manager, think about it, you are the CEO, you're still one way or the other will playing some of the functions of a human resource manager. So that is where that point is coming from. No matter where you are, you will be working with people. So you have to learn some basic things like how to motivate employees, how to communicate with employees and all that. So all managers must bear in mind that the one way or the other will be performing some of the HR functions. Okay, you may not be performing all of you may have a division that is responsible for the other major functions like recruitment, selection, and all that. But because you have to interact with people, how you treat people matters, and you need to be mindful of that. Okay, so no matter where you find yourself, you will be playing some of the duties or functions of a human resource manager. So all managers must know that part of their duties and responsibilities include performing some of the roles of human resource managers. So all managers are HR managers. Okay. The other thing we need to bear in mind is that employees are the most important assets that can give the company a competitive edge. So later we'll be talking much about this, but that is another fundamental truth that we have to know about human resource management. The competitive edge will not be coming from technology, even though technology could help. It won't be coming from the financial resources of a company, even though that is important. It might not be coming from the equipment and the machines that the company has, even though that could be important. Okay. The one important variable that can give a company a competitive edge depends on the human resources of that particular organization or company. So it is important for us to take note of this particular fact. Then the other fact that we need to note is that HRM is a matching process. It matches the needs of the organization to the needs of the employees. So as a manager, you always have to bear in mind that the best way to get the best from your employees or workers is to align the interests of those workers with that of the organization. What do I mean? When you set targets, make sure that there is some form reward accompanying the targets that you've set for your employees. Rewards that employees consider to be valuable to them, rewards that employees consider to be important to them, so that they'll be willing to work hard in order to be able to achieve such targets. So as they help the organization to achieve its targets, they will also personally be achieving their targets. So it's important to know that organizations have needs, but the same way employees also have their needs. So it's important to synchronize or connect the needs of the employees with those of the organization, so that as they try to fulfill their personal needs, they will also help the organization to be able to achieve its objectives. Okay, so the matching process of HRM is very, very important for every HR manager to note. So let's look at some of the HR functions. So HR, if you're into HR, some of your major functions will include recruitment, how to manage human resource, how to train human resource, how to evaluate or appraise the performance of human resource, how to motivate the people or employees in your organization, and how to reward the people in your organization effectively. Okay, so all of these things we said, if you're a manager in an organization, in one form or the other, you will be playing some of these roles. Okay. So let's look at HR firms practices that are closely tied to some of the functions. So HR practices support the organization's business strategy. So we have the first one. One of the most important practices, analyzing work and designing jobs. Okay, so HR people essentially are supposed to be analyzing and designing jobs, determining how many employees with specific knowledge and skills are needed. All right, we just spoke about human resource planning as well. That is part of the practice, making sure that at any point in time, they have an idea of the skills and knowledge sets that will be needed for that particular organization to be able to function well. All right, so they have to analyze and also design jobs so that work will not be so burdensome for people. And in the other round, work shouldn't be too easy such that we are not getting value from the people that have been employed into the organization. So it's important for them to analyze work, make sure that there's sufficient workload to be done at the end of the day for the kind of compensation or rewards that employees are getting. Okay, so they undertake job analysis, job design, and they also do what is known as human resource planning. I've explained the human resource planning much earlier. Point two, just as we saw in the under the functions, they attract potential employees, and technically that is known as recruitment. So what HR managers or management department will be doing is to find ways to attract potential employees to apply to vacant positions in a particular organization. That process is what is known as recruitment. The next practice is choosing employees. Once you apply, there is a tendency that there will be more applicants than that which is needed in a particular organization. So the human resource department must go through certain processes to select the most qualified or competent into those positions that have been found to be vacant. Okay, so choosing right employees into an organization, known as selection, is another major practice of human resource management. Then after you've selected, teaching employees how to perform their jobs and preparing them for the future, known as training and development, is another major practice or function of human resource management. Okay, so no matter how qualified the employee is, in fact, he must have the basis to be selected. But once the person is selected, it is also important that you train the person, give the person the skills that will be needed for the immediate assignment that the person will be undertaking. Okay, so most times, tertiary education just provide broad knowledge base. All right, but to be able to get the skills that is needed for a specific job, it will be important that HR undertakes some basic training in order to keep their newly employees abreast with the requirements of a particular job. All right, and that is training. You also need to prepare others to be able to take up higher positions with time. And so you want to expose them to certain knowledge, certain skill set that they may not need immediately for the kind of job that they are doing, but they may require those when they finally get promoted to higher positions. So when you prepare them for higher tasks, higher assignments, that is what is known as development. So training is skills that is needed for immediate performance of a particular task or job. Development is where you're preparing somebody for future responsibility. Okay, so the person will not need the skills or knowledge now, but those skills and knowledge may be needed in the future. All right, then they undertake one other major practice of human resources, evaluating the performance of employees, known as performance management or performance appraisal. All right. Once you've employed a person, you've trained the person, you're paying the person, from time to time, you should be able to evaluate the performance of the person to see whether you're actually getting value for the money that you keep on paying that particular employee. All right. And that goes to the next point, rewarding employees, compensation, rewards, and all that comes into play. And it's part of the major responsibility of human resource management. Okay. Then creating a positive work environment, known as employee relations, is another major practice. Okay. So that is totally different from rewards. You may be paying employees well, but if the work environment is not conducive, if supervisors don't communicate well, they scream and shout at their subordinates, if there is so much disrespect, discrimination, organizational injustice, people will not be satisfied in spite of the fact that their compensation or rewards may be good. So as part of HR practice, it's important that you keep a positive work environment, and that goes beyond just salary. All right. That goes beyond salary. Human being is not just an economic being. Okay. There are also social variables that are important. So much earlier, we spoke about the fact that human resource is the important factor that can give a company a competitive edge. All right. So experienced and qualified human beings are the most strategic resource that give the business edge over competitors. All right. So the central idea is that if a company wants to establish and maintain competitive advantage, that can only be achieved through people. I said it can't be achieved through technology. It can't be achieved through machines. It can't be achieved through financial resources. It is only through human beings that a company can achieve a sustained competitive advantage or competitive edge over edge rivals. And why is that the case? Okay, human beings have certain attributes that are not, for example, available to the other things that I've mentioned, say technology or financial resources or machines or any of those other things that I've spoken about. Okay, so a competitive advantage is gained when resources are valuable, they are rare, they are inimitable, and they are non-substitutable. So for a resource to be able to give a company an edge, it must have these traits. It must be valuable, it must be rare, it must be inimitable, it must be non-substitutable. Okay, valuable, yes, it's just coming from value. It should be something that is so valuable, very, very important. It must be rare. If you can easily find that particular asset or that resource, it can give a company a competitive edge because any other company can easily acquire that particular type of resource. Okay, so if you take, for example, if your competitive advantage is as a result of some new technology that a company has acquired, all that your rival need to do is to also invest in that type of technology, and that competitive edge or advantage will cease. All right, because it's not rare. The technology is something that probably is available on the market, and it's all about getting the money to be able to buy. If you don't have the money, you can even go to the bank to go and borrow. Okay, so both financial resources and technology and fiscal assets and all of those things cannot satisfy this condition of rareness, because once you have the money, if you don't even have the money, I say you can go and borrow to be able to acquire the technology and so on and so forth. But for a resource to provide a competitive advantage, it must be rare. It must be inimitable, also similar to non-substitutable. It shouldn't be a resource that can easily be copied, all right? Or it shouldn't be a resource where you can easily get a substitute for. And it's coming from the idea of rareness. Okay, if it is immutable or it can be copied or they can find substitute to it, then the resource doesn't become rare, and that will diminish the value of that particular resource. So if we pay close attention to these four qualities of a resource that can provide a competitive advantage, you can see that largely it will be human beings that can help in achieving this particular trait. Okay, so human beings are valuable. No two human beings, even if when they are twins, are the same. All right, so you can't find somebody to be exactly the same as the other person. Okay, and within the work environment, we're talking about the knowledge, we're talking about the skills, we're talking about the experience that the employees have acquired over a period of time. Okay, those things are not easily substitutable. You can't find two people that are exactly the same in terms of their knowledge, their skill set, and so on and so forth. Okay, so as human resource management or managers, if you were to build your competencies of your employees for them to acquire skills, knowledge, and so on and so forth, experiences, these experiences are normally unique to the employees of a particular organization. It will be very, very difficult for another company to just have a meeting and instruct their employees to copy the skill set, the knowledge levels, and the competencies of the employees of another company. No, that is very, very difficult because human beings are different and so on and so forth. Okay, so to build competitive advantage, it is important that companies focus on their people, their employees, to build the skill set, to build competencies, because once these things are built within people, it is very, very difficult for them to be imitated or copied by other employees in other organizations. More so, it is important to encourage teamwork. Okay, not just individual competencies, but competencies that come as a result of people working as a team. That is important because if it is just an individual competence, it is possible that another company can offer that particular employee a better salary or some offer, and that employee can leave your company. Okay, but if it is a teamwork that brings those results, the absence of just one or two people will not also destroy the competitive advantage of the company. Okay, so it is important. So these four things or traits are the reason why human resources are considered to be the most important resource in providing competitive advantage to an organization. Okay, let's look at the importance of human resource generally. Human resource management generally. So it helps in transforming lifeless factors of production into useful products. So much earlier, we looked at the factors of production. We spoke about land, we spoke about capital, we spoke about labor, and we spoke about entrepreneur. All right. So you need the labor component, especially to bring together, or if you even go to the entrepreneur and still human being, to bring together the other factors of production in order to bring life into them. If you just have capital, if you just have land, these variables on their own are not capable of transforming themselves to anything meaningful. Okay, you need the labor to be able to work with land, to be able to work with the capital, the tools, and so on and so forth, in order to bring out products and services that are useful to society. So that is one important function of human resource management. If you manage the human resource well, they will transform the lifeless factors of production into useful products for societal benefit. Okay, point 2 is that human resource is capable of enlargement. Okay, so they can produce extraordinary things when inspired. So most of the time, if there's a machine or some technology, if the design is that the machine should be able to produce, say, 100 units per day, that is the end of it. Okay, no matter what you do, once that is how the machine has been programmed, that is how far the machine can go. All right. But human beings are dynamic. They are capable of enlargement. Once you expose them to new knowledge, new training, they can grow, they can advance, they can produce better results than they did yesterday. Okay. So human resource management leads to the enlargement of the potentials and the abilities in human beings. Point 3, can help organizations achieve results quickly, efficiently, and effectively. That is important because they can reason, all right? They can reason and can work when it is required to achieve results quickly or faster. Regardless, they may be using machines, they may be using some form of technology, but you still need those human beings to be able to apply their knowledge, their reasoning to all the other resources in order to be able to get results quickly, efficiently, and effectively. Okay. So determining human resource needs, we're looking at the staffing process. All right. How do we get people? That is the main thing about human resource management. Getting the right type of people, the right quality, quantity of people in a particular organization. That is the main thrust of human resource management. So staffing is an ongoing process that begins with finding the right people through proper planning, recruiting, and selecting. All right. So you have to plan first. We spoke about this much earlier. This is important because you don't want to have too many people in the organization, or you don't want to have a shortage of people in the organization. Through the planning, you may come to realize that you need people. All right. Or you may come to realize that you have too many people, and so some should go. If it is the earlier scenario where you may need more people, then the next step kicks in. You need to go through recruitment. After recruitment, you have to do selection. After selection, you have to do placement and orientation. Then after placement or orientation, there comes reward, training and development, and also there must be continuous performance appraisal of employees. Okay, so this makes up the staffing process. So we'll be looking at this points or issues. They are the main thrust of human resource management. So human resource planning, we've had a bite of this already. So HRP is the process by which management seeks to avoid shortages, excesses, or redundant workforce by deciding in advance the future demands of HR in an organization. All right. So you don't wait until your critical need people before you start your staffing process. That is wrong. It is always important to undertake human resource planning so that you don't at a rush decide that you need people. That could lead to you employing the wrong type of people into your organization. It is important to engage in planning. Okay, so the HR planning process constitutes job analysis. So you must first analyze the jobs that are available in the organization. Okay, what are the duties involved in those particular jobs? What are the responsibilities in those jobs? What are the skill sets or knowledge that is required to be able to perform those duties and tasks and those jobs that are available in the organization? After you've done that, you need to take an inventory of the human resource. So we have human resource inventory. Inventory is like counting the human resource that you have in the organization. It could be in terms of quantity, or it could be in terms of the quality or the kind of qualification that you need, skill set that you need for the positions that you found in the organization. Okay, so you've done the job analysis. You know the demands of the job, the duties and responsibilities involved. You also know the qualifications that you need. You go and take an inventory of your existing workforce. Then you have to do a HR forecast to find out what you need in the future. Okay, then you compare the forecast with the inventory. Based on the forecasting that you have done, you may come to realize that maybe you have to employ more people in the future. You want to open more branches, and based on the human resource that you have, the number that you have now, they may not be able to fill up the branches that you want to open. Okay, that then leads to making employment decisions. Or based on your HR forecasting, you realize that you have too many people that you need than needed in that particular organization. So it leads to making employment decisions, whether you will employ more people or you have to dismiss more people, because if you look strategically into the future, you may not need more people in the organization. Okay, but most of the time it's the other way around, because companies always want to expand and grow. Normally, by comparing the forecast with the inventory, then that leads to making major employment decisions, such as recruiting more people into the organization. Okay. So the human resource planning, so the process comprised of, we looked at that. So job analysis is the description of all jobs, that's the tasks, and the qualifications needed for each position are developed. So if you're doing job analysis, you want to find out the tasks or the duties involved in those jobs, and also the qualifications, the skills, the knowledge that will be needed in order to be able to perform those jobs. Okay. HR inventory provides a catalog of qualifications and interests. It is the extraction of all the qualification of employees and interest out of the job analysis. So the employees and interests out of the job analysis conducted. So if you do the job analysis very well, we said you get to know the qualifications, the experience that people must have in order to be able to perform those particular jobs. All right. So you take an inventory to find out how many people in that organization already have those experience and qualifications. How many are you lacking? And that will help you making your decisions. So compare forecast with inventory. The aim is to determine whether the organization's staffing needs will be met with the existing personnel. All right. So you compare what you think you need in the future against the inventory that you've just done to find out whether you need more people in the future. Then finally, you make employment decisions such as developing current staff for future positions or hiring from outside the organization. Okay. Let's look at the content of job analysis. We said that is the first point when you're doing the human resource planning, all right? You do job analysis. So it provides the base for job description, which in turn influences decisions on recruitment, training, performance appraisal, and reward systems. So it's very, very important. Before you can tell people what they are supposed to do when they are employed, you need to have what is known as a job description. To have a valid and a good job description, you should have conducted job analysis. Okay, I said a job analysis where you want to find out the tasks, the duties, the responsibilities involved in a particular job, as well as the qualifications that are needed. So if you do job analysis very well, the output normally will be a good job description, all right, which will be the base, form the basis for recruitment, because part of job analysis is to define the qualifications, the experience, knowledge needed to be able to do the job. Okay, and that provides the basis for making decisions when it comes to recruitment, when it comes to training, when it comes to performance appraisal and reward systems. Okay, because then if you take reward system, for example, is the job analysis that will tell us how involving or difficult a particular job is, and therefore the kind of rewards that should accompany those particular job or those positions. Okay, so the major constituents or composition of job analysis include: one, it entails the job purpose. It should tell us the purpose of the job. When you do job analysis, it should tell us the job contents. What are the duties? What are the tasks, responsibilities, assignments involved in the job? So job purpose, job content. It should tell us the accountabilities. Who will be reporting to you if you occupy that particular position, and who will you be reporting to if you were to take up that particular position? So it should establish accountabilities. It should indicate the performance criteria of that particular job, all right? What is the criteria to be able to determine whether somebody is performing well or not? Those standards need to be there. Then the resource requirement for that particular job should also be established, all right? So if you take a critical look at adverts, okay, and as part of job recruitment, you realize that for some positions, they may tell you that you need driving license, or you should be able to drive, and you should be able to do that and that and that, or the position, you'll be given a driver. The position entails a lot of traveling and so on and so forth. Okay, so the resource requirements will be part of the job analysis. Okay. How do we go about conducting job analysis? So the techniques used to complete an effective job analysis include: one, research business documents. All right, assuming this is a new company and you want to create positions or jobs, you may want to look at business documents. If you say a CEO, you want to find out who a CEO is, what are the duties and responsibilities of a CEO, who is he supposed to be reporting to, and so on and so forth. If you want the position of a messenger, you can get all those descriptions or details from business documents. So do research. Point two, or technique two, ask relevant managers about the requirements and purpose of the job, key activities involved in the job, and so on and so forth. So basically, this is where you go and ask managers of maybe similar companies for their opinion as to various positions and jobs in that particular organization. What do they entail? What are the jobs or assignments involved in those positions, and so on and so forth. Closely related to that, you can interview the existing job holder if the job already exists. So if you want to create a position of a secretary in your company, You can interview the secretary of another company and to just find out the duties and responsibilities of the person and probably the qualifications of the person that is currently occupying that particular job or position as a secretary. Okay. Point 4, you can observe the job holders to see what they really do. All right. But most of the time, this may not be suitable for some type of job. For some jobs, a lot of things are done behind the scenes, and they only come to work to display what you have learned over the night. All right. But there may be other jobs that all that entails in that particular job is what the person does as you observe the person. If that is the case, you can use the last technique also when you conducting job analysis. So 2 things come out of job analysis. There is job description, then there is job or person specification. Okay, so job description is a written statement of the tasks, duties, conditions, hazards, and behaviors required in a given job. So if you do your job analysis well, one of the byproducts is to get a good job description. You'll be able to know the tasks, the duties, conditions, hazards, generally all the requirements that are needed, okay, in order to be able to do a particular job. What are the tasks? What are the duties? What are the conditions? What are the hazards involved in that particular job? The behaviors that are needed in order to be able to perform a given job, and so on and so forth. Then you will also get the point 2, the job specification or person specification. That's another byproduct. So the job description is about the job itself, a description of the job, as the name suggests. The duties, the conditions, the hazards, the various things involved as far as that job is concerned. Then the second thing you'll get is a written statement that states the minimum acceptable qualifications an incumbent must possess to perform a given job successfully. All right. So naturally, if you get to know the duties, the tasks, the conditions, the hazards, that then will give you an idea about the sort of qualifications that a person must have in order to be able to occupy that particular position or that job. Okay, so the statement that then provides the description of the qualifications, the experience, the skill set that a person must have in order to perform a particular job is what is known as a job or person specification. So these 2 things are things that they come together to make up what is known as your job analysis. You have job description, then you have job or person specification. Okay. What then is job description? We've explained that already. It sets out the purpose of a job, where the job fits into the organization structure, the main accountabilities and responsibilities of the job, and the key tasks to be performed. Okay, what are its importance? It helps in organization. Very, very important, point 1. Okay, with our job description, people will come to work and they won't know exactly what is expected of them. So they may end up doing the work of some other person. There'll be a lot of confusion, right? Yeah, because there won't be boundaries. You come and the next day I see you, somebody sitting on your desk or probably signing some documents that they don't have any authority to be able to do so. But they are doing it because they don't know their job. There is no job description. All right. So to ensure proper organization in an organization, it is important that there is good job description for everybody, so people know their boundaries and what is expected of them. Job description helps or provides the basis for recruitment. Okay, if you know the duties and responsibilities involved in the job, as I indicated earlier, it helps to know who then you should be employing to be able to do those tasks and duties. But if you don't know the tasks and responsibilities, how do you go about recruiting people to do particular assignments? So it helps in recruitment. Point 3, very interesting point. It can serve as a legal document, okay? So you can get dismissed for not performing your job well. It's one of the rights that employers have, okay? And they can argue out in court. They can successfully argue their case out in court as the basis for your dismissal if you don't perform your job as expected, all right? That is where job description may come handy. If your job description did not include a type of task that probably your employers are accusing you of not performing, then you can use the job description as a defense. Okay, that my job description says I should be doing A, B, C, and that D is not included. So if you are accusing me of not doing D well, that is not part of my job description, and therefore that can serve as a defense. Okay, but the reverse is also true. If it is in your job description and you are not performing it well, then that provides a good ground for employers to be able to dismiss you or sue you at court, okay? Take legal actions against you in court and so on and so forth. Right. Close to that is point 4, appraisal of performance. So it can also help employers and managers to appraise your performance. Basically, what will happen is just to compare what you are doing against what your job description says you should be doing. All right. The job description states your duties, your responsibilities, your tasks, the expectations of the job. So we come to compare what you are actually doing against what your job description says you should have been doing. And that can help us to be able to appraise your performance. So it helps in performance appraisal. So the content of job description, you'll normally find a job title there. You'll get to know who your immediate boss is. Okay, so there is the reporting responsibilities. Job description will tell you who your immediate boss is. It will also tell you your subordinates who report directly to the job holder, all right? So who is your boss, then who is your subordinate? It contains the main purpose, what is involved in the overall job, all right? From even the job title, it can give you an idea of the overall purpose of a particular job, but the job description will normally state that as well. Then finally, it will indicate the main tasks and responsibilities of that particular job. So these 5 issues here make up the content of a good job description. Then person specification describes the requirements a job holder needs to be able to perform the job satisfactorily, all right? So after we've known the requirements and duties involved in a job, we also have to know the requirements of the job holder, the qualifications, the education and qualification that one must have, the training and experience that one should have had or one should get, and the personal attributes and qualities that you need in order to be able to perform a particular job well. Okay, so job specification describes the person and the competencies needed to do the job. That is basically it. It describes the person and the competencies needed to do the particular job. Right. Once you do your job analysis right, you will get to know the job description. And as you've just seen, you also get to know the job specification or person specification. Then that provides the basis for the next activity or functions of human resource management, which is recruitment and selection. So recruitment is the process of attracting a pool of applicants to apply for an existing vacancy in an organization. So all of the adverts that you put up in place in order to attract people, the incentives packages that you put in place in order to attract potential employees to apply for a vacant position is what is known as recruitment. Okay, so the aim of recruitment and selection process is to obtain the number and quality of employees that are required in order for the business to achieve its objectives. So the whole process is to get the required number of people that will work for an organization in order for the organization to achieve its objectives. So what are the stages of recruitment? Point 1, identify and define the requirements. So it involves the preparation of job descriptions and specifications. So you see the flow. You need to have done your job analysis well. Out of the job analysis, you will have known or had a good job descriptions and specifications that will help us to know the requirements of the job, okay, in terms of the person that will be needed to be able to perform the duties in that particular job. Then once we get the specifications, we attract potential employees. So the method to adopt may be internal or external. So there are some positions that you may get people within the organization to be able to occupy those positions. There are others that you need people outside of the organization. All right. Once they apply, you need to select and employ the appropriate people from the job applicants. So let's look at the 2 types of recruitment. So we have internal recruitment. Internal recruitment refers to the filling of job vacancies from within the business or organization, where existing employees are selected rather than employing from the outside. So from the name, it should be very easy for us to explain and understand. Internal recruitment means that we want to recruit our employees from within the organization. We don't want to do that externally, but from within the organization. Okay, so it is advertised within the organization or business via the media, such as staff notice board, intranets, staff meetings, in-house magazines, and newsletters. So they want people within the organization to apply, and so they will use this media to advertise that. What are the advantages of internal recruitment? So pay attention to this because we will not be explaining the advantages and disadvantages of external recruitment, right? The advantages of internal recruitment are like the disadvantages of external recruitment, and the disadvantages of internal recruitment are like the advantages of internal recruitment. So once you get one right, you should be able to explain the other. Okay. So with internal recruitment, the first advantage is that it requires a shorter induction training period. Because the guys are already within the organization, they know a lot or much about the existing organization, all right, how things are done and so on and so forth. So they are familiar with things. So induction training becomes short because they are already part of the organization. It doesn't mean they will not need induction at all, but the length of time that is needed for an internal employee in terms of induction will not be the same as an external employee, all right? Point 2, it is relatively quicker and less expensive, all right? Because most of the time, you've seen the mode of the media of advertisement. It doesn't cost that much because you use media or medium that are within the organization, staff notice board and all that. But if there's external, you need to use some other media that could cost a lot of money. All right. The interview process also is not that lengthy and laborious because normally there are people that you know or have a fair idea about their abilities and capabilities and so on and so forth. So it is relatively quicker and less expensive. It reduces risks of selecting an appropriate candidate, right? So it flows from point 2. Because we kind of have a fair idea, the chances of selecting an inappropriate candidate is less compared to people that are coming from outside that we have no idea about, all right? So it reduces risks of selecting an appropriate candidate. It helps to retain staff who might otherwise leave. Okay, so it's coming from the hope that if I'm not currently even at a higher position, there is hope that if one day the current occupant is no longer there, maybe promoted, maybe dead, resigned, I have the chance of getting higher or find those higher positions. And so people feel motivated to stay within a particular organization. okay, compared to an organization where every vacant position is filled through external recruitment. If that happens, the current employees are likely to be demotivated because the chance that even when a vacancy exists, you may not get that particular position is higher because the company has the policy of recruiting externally, okay? So it helps to retain staff who might otherwise leave because then they have the hope that one day they could also get some higher positions to occupy. Point 5, it gives existing employees the greater opportunity to advance their careers in the business. So closely related to point 4, all right? So existing employees feel that they have a greater chance of advancing their career. What are the disadvantages of internal recruitment? Point 1, it limits the number of potential applicants for the job. All right, so the opening is just limited to the people within the organization. So the number of potential applicants could be limited. Okay, what is the real disadvantage or problem with that? That also means that it limits the likelihood of getting the most or the best for that particular position because the pool of applicants is just restricted to your organization. What if there are outsiders that could perform that particular role better than those that are within the organization? Point 2, it creates inbreeding of ideas. All right. So because the current guys are already in the organization, there is a tendency that old ways of doing things will continue, right? Because you are not bringing anybody new that may come with fresh ideas and suggestions and so on and so forth. And so the way things are done are likely to continue because you're employing people that are already in the organization. Point 3, it brings about infighting for positions. That's the other dangerous thing, right? Yeah. So once the senior person is not there, all other people now begin to find ways of fighting. Even when he's there, the lobbying, the organizational politics is ongoing. With the hope that if a higher position becomes vacant, that particular person may be favored and so on and so forth. So it brings about infighting for positions, all right? And within African context, several things could happen in people's desire or quest to occupy positions, right? Then existing staff may feel they have automatic right to be promoted, whether or not they are competent. So that's another dangerous one, right? Because recruitment are done internally, whether people are qualified or not, they almost feel they are entitled to be promoted or appointed to those higher positions. All right. If they are competent, that's fine. But there are instances where those people are not qualified. But because it is a company policy to recruit from within, these unqualified people end up occupying these higher positions. Okay. 5, external candidates might be better suited for the job. So it's just as we've explained much earlier. So the danger is that those that may be more qualified or suited are cut off because the company decided to do recruitment internally. Then let's look at external recruitment. So it's just the opposite of internal. So it refers to filling of job vacancies from outside the organization. So the media use include recruitment agencies. So there are companies that also specialize in employing people, attracting people. Yes, employing people for other organizations, right? Yes, so recruitment agencies can advertise or be a source of external recruitment. Then we have headhunters or recruitment consultants. So very similar to recruitment agencies, but normally they specialize in top-level management vacancies, all right? CEOs, COOs, yes. There are positions that ordinarily you may not get qualified people applying for because of their level of expertise. So you need to rather do what is known as headhunting, all right? You need a recruitment company or consultant to rather go after these guys to apply for this job because they may be already okay with their current jobs and wherever they may find themselves. Okay, so advertisement, employee referrals, then unsolicited applications are the media that can be used for external recruitment. Okay, so as I indicated from the beginning, I want us to end here, and part 2, we'll be looking at recruitment and selection again, but this time around focusing on selection. All right, we've gotten to recruitment, internal and external recruitment. Later, we'll be looking at selection, and then we'll then continue with the other functions of human resource management. Thank you very much for your attention, and have a wonderful day.